All right. Well, I think that's excellent information for us. So a few of you have done some of the challenges for you all. We wanted today, we've been putting a lot of the videos online and additional self-help. Today's effort is really to discuss what's available for you as a coach, to understand where you're all coming from, and then to develop additional resources for you. In an hour, we're not going to have enough time to really do a full walkthrough, but those walkthrough videos are available. And if Chris wants to put where they're going to go or where they will be into the chat, that would be very helpful for everyone participating. So yeah, Chris has put it in that we'll put some more of the stuff into YouTube in the next few weeks with it. If we want to go to, okay, so we're going to talk about the challenge, supplies, resources, maybe give a little bit more of technical tips, and then really find out where you think you have questions so that we can develop extra resources for you all. Okay, so the next slide. Here's some resources that we already have. The challenge website is there. The manual is already presently there, but you've probably already seen that because we've opened up registration for you all as we have done already. Okay, yeah, so this year's challenge is going out to the asteroid. So we've been to the moon a couple of years ago. We went to Mars last year, so we're going a little bit further out to the asteroids this year, so that students can fully understand, the different components of the solar system that we're working with. Go back. No, too quick. So it's important because we actually have a couple of missions that are getting results right now, and additional launches are going to occur in 2021. So we will actually have a little bit of a talk, but there is a mission called OSIRIS-REx. It's at an asteroid, a near-Earth asteroid called Bennu, and it is going to attempt to take a sample of its surface next Tuesday. So we'll actually have a little talk about it prior to the attempt by NASA to take a sample off this asteroid. There are 2 missions going up, and we're hoping to get some teams out to the launch if COVID-19 will get under control. There is the DART mission. That's a double asteroid redirect test. So they're actually going to bounce a spacecraft or crash a spacecraft into a small satellite around this asteroid called Didymos for it. And so this is a first experiment to demonstrate planetary protection. So if you've ever seen, Armageddon, this is a baby version of Armageddon, that movie with Bruce Willis. The other launch, and so that's going to be summer 2021. There is a launch in fall called Lucy. It is going out to what's called the Trojans, which are in a gravitational balance between Jupiter and the Sun. So you can see that they're about 60 degrees in front or behind Jupiter in the same orbit. And Lucy is named after the humanoid skeleton that they found. So they've named this as a mission going out to do a first link at those sites there. So we hope that we can get some students, but we are just claiming a unique NASA opportunity for the students who win or who have winning submissions for it. We don't know whether NASA centers will be open, and we don't know whether launches will be open, but we'll do our best to arrange something. But we have to wait for the COVID-19 conditions to become more clear for all of us. All right, so that's it. And we'll be discussing the origin of the asteroids and how they're significant. They are the precursors of the solar system. And so they're actually looking potential for the building blocks of life as well as the building blocks for the planet. So we're going to get your students to actually consider what asteroids are about. Okay, next slide. So we're actually going to look at asteroid Vesta. It's called, the formal name is 4 Vesta. The number in front of an asteroid is the order in which it was discovered. So this is the 4th asteroid that was detected by humans. It is the 2nd largest obstacle object in the solar system. It is, I'm going to call it the largest asteroid. There is the 2nd object. The other object that is bigger is called Ceres, and that's actually considered a dwarf planet, although sometimes you hear them saying that that's, the biggest asteroid is Ceres, but strictly speaking, it's considered a dwarf planet because it's round, has enough gravity to have separation for it. So this is the biggest one. It's almost round, but it had a crash with another high-speed object, took out some of its material, and so it's not quite the configuration that's required to make it reach the category of dwarf. So on the other hand, it gets claimed as the biggest asteroid, and we're actually going to look at this snowman feature for our challenge for it and see how they can build up, interpret what's available for it. So if you go to the next slide, if you're a formal educator, we have a companion course, and I should point out, and I didn't, sorry, we understand that COVID-19 is really putting a strain on everybody, including the students. They're not having social interactions. There's always a lot of risk if they do have gatherings. So this year's challenge is specifically designed to try and engage students in a team activity in an era of social distancing. And we have tried to develop as many resources available to you all, and so that we can create this resource for them and have this team interaction despite COVID-19 restrictions. So if you're an educator and wanted to add it to your curriculum, we actually have full curriculum modules available on the website there and the link given. And if you're really interested in learning a little bit more about it, that's why we're surveying you, and we may survey you at the end. We can provide some formal professional development if you're interested in doing that. We've given 2 already, but if there was demand for a 3rd one, if you knew other teachers in your area that wanted to get the formal training, let us know, and we're happy to try and incorporate that. Okay, next slide. But if you're a coach, you don't have to do all that extra work. We have designed our mission objectives so that there is a distinct component for the kids to play around with. And what do I mean by team sport in the era of COVID-19? So we have created a series of 8 objectives for the kids to play around with. And so as a coach, you have your option of whether you want to have a lead, take one of the challenges on and get information or input from your other team members to help develop it, or you can have everyone make comments and participate in all activities. We have set it up. We know that information and internet discontinuities are a problem, so that we have tried to design it that maybe even if you just have one student has internet connectivity, or one teacher or coach has that connectivity, I think we've designed it so that the students can still communicate with each other by phone and pictures, and because the kids are really great at phoning things across each other or texting. So there's always that option available to have these objectives done. So the objectives are the mission development log. We wanted the students to just describe their experiences. It's more like a diary. All us engineers and scientists use a log to describe what we've done and how we've moved forward on our experiments. It's important for the students to document what doesn't work as opposed to what does work. Too many times I've heard, failure is not an option. What we would like to teach students is that failure is definitely an option. The most important thing is to learn from mistakes and correct those mistakes. I think that's an important life lesson to have, and that's what they're supposed to be documenting in the mission development log. It can be handwritten, it can be, shared Google Docs or whatever, but just have the kids document how they're feeling for it and whatnot. We have on our YouTube channel one of the winners from our freestyle challenge, and it's a really good lessons learned about how they were able to calm COVID-19 problems. And that's what we're trying to encourage all coaches and students to know, that there are ways to overcome COVID-19 to create a successful effort. So the actual physics or the processes to discover, there is a crater formation and evolution challenge. It is one of what we call a checkpoint challenge. So there is the overall objective of completing the 8 objectives if you're in high school, and the 7 objectives if you're in middle school. If you're interested, they can submit a checkpoint challenge submission to help them know that it doesn't have to be done at the very end of the process, but as we move through December, January, that we have these little challenges that the students can complete, submit as just a unit or a discrete objective, so that they're fully engaged. The crater formation and evolution, we showed previously that we're trying to work with the snowman configuration. And part of the challenge is for students to understand that, the size of the crater is dependent on energy and the type of impactor, and then that the changes in the crater characteristics can change in time. So there's an evolution factor. And so one of the fairly easy game, and you can look it up, is for the kids to recreate crater formation and then figure out whether those 3 craters were formed at the same time or different times, and if they were formed at different times, who came first and who came last. All right, so it's a good little game for them to play and just theorize. And that's how a lot of us scientists at NASA work, is you look at an image and you've got to guess what actually happened. The third one is search for life. Some of you that have done angles and roads on Mars know that we do like the students to look at signs of life that you can't see with a visible eye. In the previous years, we had a methane detector, and on our YouTube, there is a how to use a methane detector, and we'll be shortly putting on how to use a carbon dioxide detector. So the methane is a way to look for decaying life. Actually, somebody laughed at me, but it's a sign for dead life. In other words, you had life, it dies, it decays, it gives off methane, so we can detect that. New this year, we're asking students to use a carbon dioxide detector. Everybody knows that, well, everybody should know that, plants consume carbon dioxide, and as humans and animals, we let off carbon dioxide, and that's an important factor to climate change. So there are some experiments with carbon dioxide detectors to look at those signs of life that you can't see. They're really good because you can actually see a difference in your carbon dioxide level between inside your house and outside, so it gives fresh meaning to the words fresh air. You can see life, carbon dioxide changes between day and night. And also you can actually force plants to actually reverse the process and give off respiration. If you enclose them in a container, they will actually change their behavior. We're also fortunate that these detectors that we've got for the challenge can actually detect smoke and dust particles associated with smoke. For thus, in California, Washington, and Oregon, and apparently now in Montana and Colorado, we all have large fires. And so this detector can actually be used to look at the quality of your air associated with wildfires. Thank goodness most of our fires in Washington are out now. We've got plenty of rain, but this is also something important that you could use come next spring and summer for you all. We want this interdisciplinary, and so encourage everyone. So mission objective 4 is to develop a team patch. We want the students to have aspirations of what they want to achieve, what their program looks like, and so this goes towards more like art as part of the STEAM process. And so that is something that we've always had. It makes it a little bit more relevant to your community, see what kind of mission patch they can develop. Some of them use their mascot and so forth. The next part then is starting to make your maps. So in the previous years, we've had or produced maps that are actual data from NASA to have a challenge map. They're actually using real data for it. We recognize that a lot of these projects will be done at home this year. And so rather than having a printed map out that becomes expensive and a burden for everyone, we've set it up so that the students will make their own map. We've given them instructions about the position of circles and where the various features are. That's all in the manual. And your students is actually, like the analogy I've said before, is that this is like sticking broccoli into your lasagna. We're going to get the kids to do some math in that they have to, draw up a gridded system and find out exactly where the center of the circles of the 3 craters are, and then draw in radii and stuff. And there's actually a how-to video on that for it. We also then have a drone flight experiment. So we also figured out that you're going to do it at home. So we've been using big drones in the past to challenges. This year, we're going to use these little mini drones, which are safe to fly around the house and not be a danger to anyone. It's still a really great engineering problem because they can only carry a lighter load. So here is my modified drone that's carrying the payload. And so there's a couple of activities that these drones have to undertake. They have to release an impactor that is staged that will hit a certain spot of the craters, and then they actually have to land on the rover for it. So that's mission objectives 6 and 7. There is then a map, so they've got to do a robot. So here is my modified robot that they will then have to drive around the crater for it. And they have to actually have a little cart here because the objective here is to land this rover onto the robot. So there's really some great engineering design questions that the students have to do. For the high school students, which we are calling DART, they will have to do an extra pickup of an obstacle out from it. All right, next slide. Okay, so there's the manual. We have an English version up and running, and we're hoping to release the Spanish version shortly in 2020 for it. So please take a look at it. And if you want to ask some questions, we'll have a little bit of time in a few moments to answer those questions for it. If you go to the next slide. Okay, so we've just opened up registration for it. It's under the main webpage for Asteroids. Our deadline to fully close out is November 30th. But we are going to look at requests for supplies, and I should have mentioned that already for it. We'll probably look at our registrations and how they're going and start ordering materials and maybe shipping out as much as we can. It takes us a little bit of time for it, and I did want to say that yes, we understand that we've got a lot of equipment also here for the challenge. It's very interdisciplinary. For those that meet our requirements, that are working with underserved, underrepresented students, we can assist with supplying these resources to you, but it is dependent on just how many requests. We've got a fixed budget, and we are going to try and help as many teams as possible that need help to get up and running for it. Okay. Okay, so here's the supplies list and the resources that's available for you. And again, when you register, you can tell us how many kids are available, what resources you want, and we'll see what we can get to you. Okay, and I forgot there was a typo on that. Really, the registration will end November 20th, where I'm telepathing that we will, of course, always give a late registration date, but we'd like to do the first round by November 20th for it. So sorry about that typo in the presentation. Okay, so the resources, again, the methane detector, those that have done the challenges in the past, the methane detector is identical. There's no change. So if you've got them, that's great. If you need them, like I said, we can help supply them if you meet our requirements. The methane detector is only about $40. It's not too bad. The carbon dioxide detector is new this year. It's much more expensive. If you buy it directly off the web, it's about 140. We know that's really expensive, but we've been able to buy them in bulk, and we're getting about them for about $95. They are in high demand right now because of the fires, and so just be aware that that can take a bit while to ship from the supplier to us here. So the earlier you get these requests in, the better for you. There is a microscope. Again, for the search for life, there's either the digital microscope that we've provided previously, or we can provide a foldscope this year. That's a very handy little microscope that is literally a folding cardboard with a lens that can be used. And so there's a possibility of providing one per student, for example, depending on how many students you have available to you. Okay, next slide. The drone I just showed you, it's about $50. So you're free to still use the Blue Heron. You might want to, if you from the previous years, that's fine, but you might want to then you still have to drop your payload in and then pick it up. So it's a little bit harder problem, but you're more than welcome to do that. The mini drones, we've still selected these ones. They're about $50. They'll probably get cheaper during Thanksgiving. And so, you know, just do your timing relevant. We have chosen a different robot for supplies. You're free to use whatever robot that you want to. For example, it could be a Lego EV3 that we've provided in previous years, or the Vex IQ. So you're free to use those. We're actually providing this robot that you see from MakeBlock. It is a lot cheaper. It's probably not as functional as your Lego EV3, but the challenge doesn't require all the capabilities of the Lego. And as such, these robots, with our discounts, only about $100. So if you, again, you meet our requirements and you say, you know, you might want two for a team to work out. If you're going to be socially isolated, but you need to have the kids work together for it, then you might want to ask us and tell us that's the need that you have for us. And so that's why we've gone to this cheaper robotic system. It's still quite capable of doing the challenge. You just saw my modified one. So the main difference between it and Lego, you have all the pieces to stick together. For me, I had to fabricate out of cardboard the various parts that are needed for the challenge. So they have to cut their own parts and figure out how to attach them. Again, it's a good engineering design problem for them. All right, next slide. So we could take a break here and let's ask questions. You're gonna put them into the chat or ask us directly if you want to. Sometimes we only got 24 people here, so not too bad. Any questions so far? Don't be bashful. Great. So there's a question. Yes. So there's visually impaired. Great. I'm glad to see that. Go slower, guys, all of a sudden. So for the visually impaired, we will continue to provide the Lego EV3s to you if that's requirement. It's a good point. The make block is not visually impaired appropriate, so we'll do that. We've tried to make it as hands-on so that, building up of the craters should be a nice hands-on textile feature. The drone flying, you will need a site person to help with that, but we've seen that the kids are very good at trying to do the flight objectives for it. I should have pointed out the cratering is up to, when the kids make their own map, it's up to them about what materials is used. So in my video, I'm using styrofoam, but if the kids want to make it out of rocks around the neighborhood or pieces of stick or whatever, they're more than free to use that. We're looking for the kids to use whatever materials are available for it. If it's a school team and you want to register the entire class, we most certainly encourage that. And like I said, we've designed it to try and outfit a grade, for example, or a class if that's what you guys want to do. So when you fill in the registration form, we just need to hear that you're going to do that. Again, we are providing supplies to you, and we are a federally funded organization. So you have to, there's paperwork with it, yay. That means acknowledging that you've received the gear for us and filling in queries to about how many students are actually participating and seeing the results. I should also say that we want the kids to get as far as they want. We know that conditions under COVID are really difficult. So even if they just do some of the checkpoint challenges, to me, that would still be a success. So engage your students as you feel fit. It's mix and match. If they decide not to do any of the checkpoint challenges, but just play with the robot, that's still a win. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Karen. Guy, when does the competition conclude? We are expecting to run, so it'll be a video submit. I should have said that. It's a virtual thing because we still don't know what will happen come the beginning of spring. If by some best circumstances happen and COVID's completely gone and vaccines are completely free and ready for available, we will try to switch last minute to face-to-face, but we're going to plan at least this stage to do it all virtually. The kids will have to submit videos of their efforts for it. And so we're planning that to be come early April sometime. Okay. So Kimberly says, I've already signed up and have a number, so I'll just email her. Yes, please. And again, we really want to encourage diverse groups, and so we're glad to see that you can provide, have your students participate. And if you have specific questions or need specific modifications to meet your student needs, please have that. Let us know. Just let us know, because we're just working as hard as we can with all the given unknowns. Let's see, Connie writes, I've registered and didn't realize there was some new items such as mini drones and you. Chris, you might, or Mary might want to answer Connie's one since you're handling that one. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, Chris has answered that in the chat. Any updates to your registration, you can just send those to our office email and we can update that for you.
Okay, so again, yeah, so there is a concern raised here that they're in New Mexico, it's virtual. How will we need to get materials to the kids? So what we've designed, if you see, so suppose you just had a team of 5. So there's one way to do it is that there's actually 5 pieces of equipment. There's the methane detector, there's the carbon dioxide, there's the robot, there's the mini drone, and there's the microscope. So one way to do it is that you give a piece of instrument to each other ones, they experiment, record their own results, wipe down the instrument, and then 1 or 2 weeks later, you just do a rotation, for example. And I'm sure that they could manage rotating the gear around. At least I hope they can. We are also, if I know that internet access can be an issue, for example. So this year you can also request how to thumb drive. So we'll try and put videos on a thumb drive, and we'll try and put as many instructions on it. The hope is that, for example, the robotics is always difficult, but maybe you give the robot to the student that is most able to handle the robot. They debug things, and then they can rotate and use their expertise to then rotate the equipment around to the kids. And like I said, particularly in New Mexico, I know there's a struggle. So that would be a good case where we could provide 2 robots, and they could work in communications. And again, it could be by phone. I know that internet access may be an issue. So that's what we're trying to do is, and the other thing is, yeah, we understand. So don't be afraid that the kids will destroy the equipment, okay? I think that to me, a positive result is, okay, I don't want to put it quite this badly, but if they've used the equipment and they've damaged it, that's still a win in my respect. So the worst thing that could happen is that all the equipment is locked up in the school and nobody uses it. That's a fail. And that's what we had with the Mars on 2020, is that we were all caught off guard with the severity and the lockdown, and a lot of the equipment got locked away. The kids couldn't use it and nothing happened. So our hope is that you'll distribute the gear to the kids and let them have at it. And if things get broken, or, best effort is all that we can ask for it. I think the social media is voluntary this year. We weren't making it part of the request, just because, again, internet access is an issue for some teams, and so we would encourage it so that we can get more kids to be involved, but it's not a requirement this year. So Jafar is asking, is there any reports to be submitted, information? So that is all in your mission development log. So as they're going along, they will submit their mission development log. It doesn't have to be a tidy thing. And so in some of our presentations, I've actually pulled out an example where it's handwritten and the student just discusses his experiences. So don't fuss about making it professional looking. The most important thing is to get the kids' information inputted in whatever form they want. And so the mission development log, the video, and having some independent person score your attempts is what we're looking for. And those are the only 3 things that need to be submitted come April. But again, as they're moving forward, if they do the checkpoint challenges, the kids, we can see, and you can see how the kids are performing. And we will give awards out for the checkpoint challenges, just to encourage kids to keep going, despite whatever challenges everyone is having with COVID-19. So Chris just answered that one. Yes, we've done that. With the Lego robot, will there be a different app to use So Lego has its own programming environment than the MBOT, so you're allowed to use the relevant app for it. The lower division is if the kids just want to remote control it, and then we have the programming environments up at middle school and high school for it. So you guys are free to use whatever app, programming app that you want for moving the robot across the course. Okay, Chris is doing that. Yes, okay, yes. So I think we've answered. Any other questions? Yes.
Can I ask a question for the snowman feature?
Yes.
I mean, do you have an ideal answer for that, or is it only a proposal? I mean, it's just theory.
Actually, there is actually a real answer. They're actually doing it a slightly different way. They're looking at the chemical composition of the material, but we're going to just use what's called geomorphology. That is the characteristics of the craters. And so, yes, there is an actual real answer to it. But I'm not telling you, because that would be cheating. You got to figure it out.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
course, once you find out, everybody can spread the word, but, you know, we should have the kids have a go at seeing what the evidence is. And so in the manual, there is a step-by-step way to help them lead to the correct conclusion. But I find the kids today, they're so into instant gratification of the directions that they're not actually interpreting the maps that they play around with. And so this is actually an exercise for them to stop and actually look at the map and figure out what's actually happening. All right, so if there's any last chance for questions, otherwise we can show a little coach's rah-rah video and look a little bit, some more hints for you. Any other questions? All right, then we'll show this video. And
hi coaches. So there are some real subtleties about this challenge this year. There's actually a lot more engineering design, which means that the students have to do a lot more decision processing and reasoning about what's happening. And as such, I think it's a really good life learning process that they're going to go through. So a couple of examples of that is the size of the landing area. So you get more points if it's small, but clearly it gets more difficult to land your drone onto a smaller basket. So they have to decide what is the optimum size basket to land their drone on. Okay, because if it's too small, they crash, they'll lose points. Too big, there are more points for something that's smaller. So they have to optimize that. Similarly for the ramp here, this is a really good study of vectors if they're up to that point in their skill sets. But you have a slope here, so there's how much friction you have on here and the shape of the impactor. And you'll find out that weighting the impactor with the weight down the bottom will help the projectile, but a smooth surface here will help increase speed, and they have to figure out what the optimum is between the height of their stand and the slope of the launch rail here. So if you're doing high schoolers, there's great vector analysis here because your force here is not straight gravity, but an angle here associated with the surface of this place. Another subtlety here for you all is the mapping of the ramp here. And so you'll see that if you make it a rough edge here, straight edge, your rover is going to have problems getting up and down it. Here we've made it flattish so that really smooth connection so that there's no discontinuities to stop the object going up and sliding up. And you'll see here the mass loading that I have done, and I've made it prettified here with some rock formations, but you can see I've loaded the base here. And that can help them work through forces and center of mass, why you want to put the weight down at the bottom as opposed to not having it weighted at all, because as it falls, the object will encounter.
Okay, and so you can see the rock wall, you know, the craters that I formed. You could see a bit further back that we are truly making it. If you could actually just show the end of the movie, that would be great, so I can just talk about it. Yeah, I've got two little eyeballs to finish off my snowman, and so we're actually going to have a fun prize to see who can develop the prettiest looking snowman feature for it. Okay. So we'll show a movie. There is a walkthrough movie. We won't show it today because it's kind of long, and I want to be cognizant of your time and answer more questions as I can. But there is a walkthrough movie about how they are. One of the tricks this year is, in previous years, the students had to, you know, move payloads or samples across a flat map. This year they have to take it up and over the ramps. So I was using yogurt cups because if you have a ball and you roll it from one side over the ramp, then it just likes to shoot away through. And so a little bit hard to keep control over it. Okay. So that's a little bit of a teaser. Does anybody have questions about the actual challenge because we put in that teaser? And Mary has opened up the poll again. If you wanted to, again, ask some questions, then you're more than willing to, we'll try and get them answered. So time frame again, the checkpoint challenge first one is in December. There's another one in January and February. And we hope to have science matter experts actually talking, and I'm going to give a talk to you all, to students, next Tuesday. I think, what time is it? It was, can't remember what time, about 3 o'clock on Tuesday. NASA's going to try and pull something else, so we're going to have a little bit of talk about asteroids if the students want to come and talk and meet me and play with it for it. And the actual full timeline is on page 14 of the manual. Interested on finding out how things will work with COVID and virtual competition. So Mars reboot, we just completed. We did get kids to be able to submit their videos. You can stick the videos together as needed. So for example, under COVID-19, if you have 2 students working on the drone part, 2 students on the robot, it's fine for the students working on the drone to have their video, and then you can cut away to the 2 students doing the programming, working through it. So that's how we intend to work through that. The kids, and that's one thing I should really point out too that I didn't. The kids are going to be resilient, and I think this is a really good chance to demonstrate their resilience. So let the kids try and figure out how they're going to do it under COVID and virtual challenges. I think we've seen a lot of innovation, and the kids are able to talk amongst each other. So as a coach, I'd ask you, don't stress it. The kids are going to work it out. We've seen a lot of innovation. You know, clearly it'll need some greasing of the wheels, but they will get it. Yeah. So there's a question then about how can we get help with the objective? Absolutely. So our intention then is to have a few of these how to do things throughout the challenge period. And also, if you look at the registration site, and I want to really emphasize this too, as you know, a lot of restaurants are closed, which means a lot of our undergraduates are without jobs as well. So we are going to solve 2 problems in one stroke, is that we are going to have TA or teaching assistants available to you all for this challenge, okay? So you can either schedule it as a group, or we'll have fixed times for suggestions on how to do it and how to solve problems. So help us, help your students as well as my students by taking use of this teaching assistantships that we have available. We've already got 5 of our undergrads lined up and ready to go. They can either give talks on specialty if you'd like, or they can answer specific questions about the challenge to your group. You just have to schedule it so that we can help so we can do some matchmaking between your needs and our student needs. So we understand that the TA support with teachers is really important. So it's available. Please don't be shy to ask for those resources. So is it okay if the missions aren't nice? Yeah, the mission objectives do not have to be done in order. We've just put them down in an order that we felt was appropriate, that allows us to do our professional development, but you are allowed to choose whatever they want. And yes, before the ground freezes is a good one for it. Although thawing out life, you can never know what happens when you re-thaw out your life forms. All right. So I answered all those. Any more questions? Again, as I wait for some more questions, but again, we've tried to make as many more resources available so that your students and your can participate and be successful. So don't be strangers to us. You've got to help us help you by letting us know what your resources that you need for. So if you're doing, okay, so Chris answered, if you're doing the checkpoint challenges, submissions for all of them will be open in early November, so you can submit them at any time to communicate doing whenever it works for you. Other questions? All right, not seeing any others. So we'll call it quits now. If you want to hang around and you're shy and you want to ask us a question, we'll hang around for a few more minutes. We'll put on the videos. We already have a couple of walkthrough videos. They're kind of long for it, but if you, did you want to give a little sample part of one of the walkthrough videos? Just a 30-second snippet, Mary?
Sure, just give me 1 second.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we're going to provide the TA, so you just tell us. I think it's a great way to get peers to do it. Okay, so just put somewhere in the middle or something.
Diameter of 48 inches.
Yeah, so there you go. There's me making my own map. And by the way, I did this all in my garage, demonstrating that it could be done in your garage. I did have to put my car out for a couple of weeks, but there you go. Okay, so if you just pause it there, rather than me whacking it. So they're the self-help videos that are available, and we'll put them all on the web. We're providing as much instruction as possible. Okay, so I'll hang around if it's, oh, okay, that's a good point. What size are the mats? So it's going to fit on an 8 by 8 foot area for you all. So what I did was used a couple of foam boards, 8 by 4. You'll see in the actual thing it's not exactly, so you don't have to do it. You could use poster board. Some of the kids just tape it on a garage floor or your kitchen floor when you're ready to do it. Whatever works for the team is good enough for us for this challenge. And to me, honestly, the more tackier and more homemade, the better scoring rather than looking professional. We want to make sure it's the kids' efforts. Okay. And Chris pointed out, if you have an old map from us, although half of you haven't newbies to it, but if you've just got any, you know, some of the old maps that we used in previous years. We don't recommend using tarps. The tarps tend to move. Definitely recommend some sort of hard flooring like poster board or foam board or whatever you've got available to you. Yeah, and Chris, you know, in our previous one for freestyle, the kids literally, yes, tape things to the floor of their kitchen floor. Parents are really acceptive for it. And yes, Bill indicated that they use chalk on a concrete floor. So it's up to the students to be creative. And I think that is actually one of the benefits of doing it under COVID-19 is that there's a lot more thinking that has to go through and having the kids talk to each other about what kind of solutions they want to use. All right, so that's all I think I have to say, and you're free to head out, or if you want to, we'll stop recording now, and if you want to ask questions, you're more than welcome to it. And thank you all, and good luck.